Lazuli, Lazuli, my lapis lazuli. I named her like this for the precious gem. She came to us back in early July 2008, having been born on April 23rd of that same year. She was less than 3 months old and yet full of character. Back in my early stage years, I had a white female cat called Chantilly. Unfortunately, she escaped and we could not find her. Okay, so back to 2008, I was in the middle of my college studies when I decided I wanted to have a cat once again. I read about Siamese cats, watched a bit online, and it was decided. I want a Siamese over a Himalayan or Ragdoll anytime. They simply seemed so smart, and with such defined personalities. How could I not want one of them? My mother accompanied me to a breeder. There we saw different catties. Initially, we were introduced to a Siamese girl that was around 3 months old and maybe a little bit more. She was soft, she was tender, and I also felt a bit of sadness that in case we did not take her, nobody would, given her age. Then, this much smaller and younger girl came into the room. She was a blue point Siamese. I had never seen one before, and she had such a unique personality. There I say it, she was complicated. She liked hissing to adult cats that would only look at her and think to themselves, "Oh, this little girl is incorrigible." It was love at first sight for my mom. And well, despite feeling a tad sad about the other one, we took this one home. Since she was a blue point Siamese with such perpetrating eye color, I decided to call her Lazuli. Yep, just like lapis lazuli. She immediately started behaving naughty, climbing all the way up my back with full nails, destroying houseplants. This kitty really loved to meow. I should have known before that she was going to be like this. Nevertheless, we quickly fell in love. At the time, we were living on a sixth floor and I felt paranoid that she could fall down upon the opening the door. It was a relief when we moved to a new apartment soon in 2009. Her first kid came and left. By the third, we decided it would be cute if she could have some kittens of her own. That is how on August 30th, 2009, at 1 a.m., her first son, Gunder, was born, followed 2 hours and a half later by her son, Idefix. Yep, I remember the times exactly like that. Lazuli was nevertheless still surprising us all. She turned out to be some sort of postmodern mom, sometimes getting annoyed at the intensity of her kittens and trying to take a break from them. When the kittens were about 2 months and a half, a lovely family came for Gunder. Needless to say, it was a sad experience for me. Nobody came for Idefix during the next 2 weeks, and when finally someone seemed interested, I had already changed my opinion. I had changed my mind. I wanted him to remain at home. By the turn of the year, by 2010, his name was officially changed to Nico. He just didn't fit the Idefix role any longer. For most of 2010, I had the pleasure to see Lazuli and Nico bonding as mother and child in a beautiful way. That is, until I left to Prague on September 19, 2010. My goal was to study there and then in the future reunite with my cats. And certainly, as the Cancer moon that I am, it wasn't ready to detach temporarily from my cats, mom, and grandparents. Even in the most joyous occasions as a student in such a fantastic city as Prague, I always had a space in my heart for my two cats that were several thousand of kilometers far from me. And then the unexpected happened. Near the end of the winter of 2011, I developed kidney failure over there in Europe. Life-changing events. In a matter of weeks, I was here in my country. Just 1 month and a half later, I was starting hemodialysis therapy. that was meant to be thrice a week. My world was collapsing, and I do believe, certainly believe, to a gigantic degree that my cats were my heroes. They did not let me fall into depression. They, along with my mother, pulled me to the surface. Hemodialysis was later changed to peritoneal dialysis, which lasted from August 2011 to October 2019, until I finally got a transplant. An experience that changed me forever and that comprised most of my 20s. But who was there to be with me? To give me unconditional love in every single occasion? Of course, Nico and Lazuli. There, all the time, with their vividness, their vitality, their boundless affection, and sure, a little bit of moodiness here and there. Contrary to one might think, my 2010s were a memorable and happy time to a great extent, even though there were obstacles. After my transplant, I briefly considered going back to Europe, but given my cat's aging, I concluded I would not move anywhere without them. Few months later, as a thing of destiny, this pandemic started. What can I say? Maybe a new level in the game, or a whole game in itself. Fortunately, along with my mother, Nico and Lazuli have been my guardians, my company, and in every single day of the last 2 years they were here with me. I think as humans we tend to be ignorant to notice how fast time passes, and how sometimes we are wasting it, or are being completely ignorant about the impending impermanence. Regarding Nico and Lazuli, we have been fortunate to not only have held just one health scare some 4 years ago, in which both drastically reduced their food intake, and because they didn't like the flavor, and it ended up causing them some acute liver problems. Having a long history with kidney disease, I quickly learned that cats tend to suffer this disease as they age. And I took some preventive measures. I mean, at least the basic ones of making sure they would increase their water intake. I did this simply by buying a cat fountain. So when a tempestuous time hit us last year, I did not expect it at all. I thought it was the end. I had anticipatory grief, and for several hours thought I had lost my Lazuli. This whole dramatic episode started with 2 nights in a row of Lazuli peeing on my bed. I took her to the vet, thinking it was mostly likely a urinary tract infection. Well, it turned out that she had this, but she also had kidney disease. Her creatinine was 5.2, and worst of all, ultrasound images showed up and that her healthiest kidney was now obstructed by something, and this something was causing hydronephrosis. In the next following days, her health deteriorated further. A combination of a badly used antibiotic, lack of care by those vets, but mostly greed, intense greed, wanting to make money out of her helplessness, out of her desperation and fear. Thank God I found a wonderful webpage for cats with kidney disease, along with a Facebook group with some incredible people. Through subcutaneous therapy, changes in diet, and love. Much, much love, really. Love is what makes all the difference. Lazuli's creatinine fell to 3.2, and now here we are. 1 year later, 1 year after that episode, she's still here. Stubborn as always, playful, with a great appetite, and the creatinine is still the same. I cherish every second I get to spend with her. In a following video, I will be explaining more about how to treat kidney disease in cats. Please like and subscribe. For my part, Lazuli's and Nico's, be all welcomed. Thank you.